We're gonna let the beast out. Caged up, held down for far too long. You ready? Be ready. Breathe in, smell the victory. Breathe out, let go of all the doubt you feel. Believe, reject defeat. Don't ever be afraid to be a legend. When it's on the line, seize the moment when the moment's right. Come on, you're in this fight. Don't ever be afraid to be a legend. Stand the test of time. Seize the moment when the moment's right. Come on, believe you're in this fight. Don't ever be afraid to be a legend. Hold up, are you listening? Focus in, we're looking to make history. Let's go, we know.
Hey, it's Tuesday night, and you guys know what time it is, right? Especially for the summertime off-season days. It's time for our combination show. You get a 2-for-1 tonight, and it's like that every single week throughout the rest of the off-season, the summertime season. It's Tuesday night, and that means it's the PreGame Blitz / the Viking Nation right here on the Viking Nation and PreGame Blitz. Because I had to say it like that. I kind of lost my just like, oh, I got to introduce it that way because, you know, we have multiple destinations that this broadcast goes out to, and it goes out on the PreGame Blitz Facebook page, the PreGame Blitz YouTube channel, the Viking Nation Facebook page, and a couple other type of deals as well. We'll be sending out to our website pretty soon as well. So anyway, that's why I had that little tongue twister there. Well, welcome aboard, guys. I'm Larry Godwin, your host for tonight, and we're going to have a great time. We really are. We got a pretty good show for you tonight by answering several questions. And, you know, it's the off season. So we do what fans do this time of year. We talk about not outlandish types of topics, but kind of broad reaching topics that affect football. We speculate and just have a good time talking about what if scenarios, if things make sense. We spend a lot of time educating that kind of stuff because we do have a lot of fans that don't know the ins and outs of what happens during the off season, during the summertime league. What is a padded camp? What is an OTA? What's a 7-on-7 league? That kind of stuff. So we'll cover all that stuff throughout the off season and get you guys up to speed. So by the time August hits and toe meets leather, you guys will be fully prepared, hyped up, and ready to go. As far as ready to go, let me go ahead and tell you guys about our sponsors. You probably know them by heart by now, right? The first one is our title sponsor. I should really start calling this show the PreGame Blitz Viking Nation around the nation. No, I'm kidding. The PreGame Blitz presented by Pepsi Bottling Company, because they are our title sponsor. They really are. I need to show these guys a lot more love because they do a lot for this community, a lot for the sports community in general, all around the country, but specifically us. So we want to make sure we promote these guys adequately. You know them as Pepsi and Mountain Dew. You may not know them as Rockstar Mountain Dew Energy, Mountain Dew Spark. My buddy George Braddock, one of the super fans, shared with us last week that he took the splurge, right? I don't know if you call it the Mountain Dew Spark Splurge or whatever. I might have just coined a new phrase for Pepsi Cola. But he bought a case of this stuff for his family last week, and they love it. Mountain Dew Spark. So anyway, you guys check out all the different flavors that Pepsi Bottling Company produces. You won't be disappointed. We also want to thank Tim Neesmith with A Shade of Perfection. If you need custom shades and blinds, these guys can do it right because they basically make your windows look beautiful. And other than curb appeal, your windows and doors need to look really, really good. That's what basically sells the house, right? If you suffer from migraine headaches, any type of headache, back pain, the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta, go visit the certified headache medicine specialists. Those are Josh Batson and Justin Haskin. They offer a variety of migraine and back pain treatments. So these guys can set you up right. Josh Batson and Justin Haskin. I want to get these guys on the show one night so they can talk about some of the things that they offer there. They're also huge local sports fans as well. I think there's spine clinic, the Valdosta Spine and Migraine Spine Clinic. They are also touchdown club members of the Viking Nation. So anyway, we appreciate Josh and Justin. Guys, I don't have to tell you about all the crazy financial things that's going on in our country right now, whether it's you talk about inflation, gas prices. I can't help you with that, but I can help you with your financial planning. Not me personally, but I can point you in the right direction. My buddy Kyle Conger with White Oak Investment, he does this stuff for a living, guys. So he has to know what he's talking about. So if you need help navigating these financial turbulent times right now, give Kyle a call. What do you got to lose by picking up the phone, giving him a call, at least talk to the guy, 229-850-8848. See what he can do for you. We also want to thank Matthew Godwin at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. If you guys need iPhones, Androids, accessories, or any type of small business account help or needs, give Matthew a call at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. This is one of our newer sponsors. He's been on board with us for about a month now. I'm doing a major venture, a major partnership with the Freedom Network. Basically, Freedom with Steve Nichols. If you've ever watched this show, and if you haven't, I suggest that you do. It's a fantastic, engaging show. I listened to it this morning, and they were talking all about the Second Amendment and freedom of speech. So it's beyond your ordinary political talk show, right? So this is a great, entertaining show with regular folks just like us talking about these things that make our country so great. It's why it's such an engaging show. Don't you guys get tired of the regular news channels all the time? If you are, first thing in the morning, check Steve Nichols out, Freedom with Steve Nichols. We've got some more really cool stuff coming along, and we'll be announcing those pretty soon. And our newest sponsor is Commercial Banking Company, CBC Bank, located here in Valdosta and Hayhira. Guys, mortgage rates are going up, right? And they're going to continue to go up. So if you are in the market for a house, a mortgage loan, maybe to renovate a house, now is the time to go ahead and talk to someone at Commercial Banking Company to go ahead and lock in your mortgage rates, because they're only going to go up. They're probably going to go up some more. So go ahead and get them while they're at the current rate. Okay. So Commercial Banking Company right here at 229-850-88. Oh, that's not there. I just noticed that number. I got to change that immediately after the show. Give Commercial Banking Company a call right here in Valdosta and Hayhira. All right, guys. So let me go ahead and bring in our super fans tonight. If I seem a little out of sorts or a little flustered, that's because George, man, I'm bleeding money, man. We're buying new tires, we're buying new furniture, we're having to install a fence, and it's like, oh my gosh, all at one time. So it comes in threes, right?
Yeah,
just juggling things. So I just rushed home from furniture shopping with my wife, and we saw some nice pieces at Turner's Fine Furniture. Yes, I just gave them a free plug, so maybe they'll give me a discount now. How about that? That's a fair trade, right?
Absolutely.
So, listen, enough about my financial stuff and my financial belief. Let's get my mind off of it and talk about some great high school football.
Yes.
What do you think? All right, so we got George Braddock with us tonight. He's a show regular, and becoming a show regular is Chase Garnto. How are you, Chase?
I'm good, Larry. I'm fantastic.
So, Chase, were you a Tennessee? No, that's Titletown Titans.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it said Tennessee Titans.
We'll throw you off on it. It looks like
man, it looks just like them. It really does.
It does. It does. We just changed the colors. We're black and green and white.
Listen, travel ball.
It is a UYF. It's a UYFL Pop Warner Travel Ball organization.
Gotcha. Cool.
Listen, our buddy Tim Neesmith, Stickman, we call him affectionately around here. He has joined the Metro Atlanta crowd, but he says he also owns a shutter company that sponsors our show. He basically says, hey, listen, while you're spending all this cash, you also need some new shutters.
Yes.
How about that? Tim, don't give my wife that idea. Just don't do it.
He got
Anyway.
to get to the decision maker.
Exactly. After I just spent another
Oh, Lord,
$5,000
leave it to
buying a
Tim.
painting from Tim. I'm kidding. I didn't do that. So anyway, got me all flustered again. All right. So guys, here are the topics for tonight. It's just fans getting together and saying, what if this, what if that, but they're kind of fun topics to talk about. The first one is if you were the football czar, if you were the executive director for 1 week, 1 month, and you wanted to break away from the GHSA for whatever reason, we're not going to get into why you would or why you wouldn't, but let's just say the decision has already been made. Okay. And you are the new executive director of this new league. Whatever you want to call it. Right. How would you set it up? I've got some ideas, but I'm going to throw it out there with you guys. Now, I'm not going to give you a phone number to call in tonight because dummy me, I was moving equipment around over the weekend and I kind of misplaced one of my wires that connects the phone to the mixing board. It's like, dadgummit, what else could go wrong today?
That's Larry's sometimers kicking in.
That's right. Yep. So Chase has picked up. George, I don't have Alzheimer's yet, but I do have sometimers. Sometimes it comes and sometimes it goes, man.
Yeah. And the next step I think I've firmly gotten into is halfheimers.
Halfheimers? What's that?
Kind of past sometimers, but you're not all the way there. You're kind of halfway.
I got you.
Yeah. So all the same pathology, just the level where you're at on it.
Did you shave your head?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice clean shave.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did it all up.
He balances me out, Larry.
I got you.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
So we're talking about being the executive director of this new football league for a month. Okay. So how would you design it? Because I was talking to George about this before you came onto the backstage before the show. And he brought up a good point. He says, listen, if you break away from the GHSA, you're still stuck with the same geography that you have now, right? Now you just have less teams to play with.
I don't think geography is the biggest issue that you would really be breaking away from. The biggest issue you'd be breaking away from is favoritism.
Okay, assuming that all the arguments and debates have already been had and the decision's already been made. Okay, how would you design this new league? What would it look like, given the teams that we have? And let's say we go from Macon south. We can include the coastal teams. So basically everybody except the Metro Atlanta teams.
Let me say something, Chase, in terms of what I was thinking with geography, meaning, you've got a very densely populated Metro Atlanta area with the ability from one guy living in, I don't know, certain area to have access within, say, Gwinnett County of multiple schools. Whereas, say south of I-16, people are spread out a little further. You could take probably 20 or 25 counties, including Lowndes, Ware, and a whole strip across the southern part of the state, not even touch 500,000 people.
Right.
Population. And it's just hard because then you're talking about the two biggest reasons the GHSA met last time was, one, travel distance and
that's right,
relative to cost and things like that, but also two, time out of the classroom for the students. So that's kind of where I was coming from with the geography, challenge, where you got a state with almost a tale of two cities, right?
Right.
So it's hard to have one size fits all and make everybody happy and feel equitable. I don't know how you do it, honestly, and I don't envy the GHSA. Do I see favoritism? Back to your point.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you tell me. You see a guy get disqualified from Valdosta for not dotting an I. Next thing you know, he's a starting quarterback at Grayson. Help me out here. They admitted on ESPN what they were up to with the parents. So, yeah, it's not the only time I've ever heard of it. So we could throw flags for sure, but to your question, Larry, I'd love to hear people chime in with a comment or two if you could start the process on maybe, and we could kind of pile onto it and come together with something.
I think you would almost have to take for lack of a better word, we'll call them the powerhouse programs of that area south of Macon. Like if you drew a line straight across everything south of Macon, you've got your Northside Warner Robins, your Lee County, Lowndes, Valdosta, Colquitt, Camden, all those big time powerhouse schools. You would almost have to put them in a region or in a classification by themselves, and that's not going to give you enough of a pool or enough of a conference or region to be equitable. So, I mean, I don't know where you go from there. I mean, outside of, and Camden's always been out of pocket. Camden's out of pocket for everybody because they're way out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But and with Camden's being up and down and up and down and up and down, you could almost put them in the coastal region and let them just be the big dog over there. But I mean, your powerhouses like Lowndes, Valdosta, Camden, not Camden, but Lowndes, Valdosta, Colquitt, Lee County, Northside Warner Robins, all of those. I mean, that would be a relatively decent region right there, and it's all almost on the I-75 corridor.
Well, technically you could run one up the 95 corridor to catch Camden, Brunswick, Glen Academy, Richmond Hill, and so forth. So you almost have sister, Region 1 and Region 2 running those interstates. To your point, and I think that might be what we're seeing happening in 24. The GSSAs looks like they may be heading in that direction already. Right. So.
Well, I'm gonna pitch this idea because I don't think I've ever heard anyone, because this topic's been debated before. It's been talked about by fans, but I don't think anyone's ever come up with this idea. And that's, I don't know, that's one of my superpowers, I guess, is to come up with crazy ideas. Sometimes they sound good coming out of my mouth, and sometimes they sound stupid. So I don't know which one this is. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Throw it out. Let's see.
I would actually create, if they were willing, I would create I don't even know what you call it, but the teams would be basically Middle Georgia South all the way to the state line, and you would also include North Florida as well. And you basically create a new league that has a Georgia-Florida mix to it. I don't know what the boundaries are. Let's say Tallahassee on the west, maybe a little bit farther, and Jacksonville on the east. I don't know if you go you include Lake City. I don't know if other teams like Ocala and Orlando want to join, that's fine as well. But I would probably more feasible to make it Lake City, that kind of stuff, because from Macon,
Lake City, Ocala,
from Macon to Orlando, that's a long trip, right? So it'd probably be Lake City to Macon. Okay, that would be feasible. So the obvious things, the place I would start with would be smaller classification teams, because we have so many of those teams in South and Middle Georgia and North Florida for that matter. Imagine a 1 or 2A classification or a region that has teams like Madison County, Brooks County, Irwin, Clinch, Thomasville in it. What a fantastic region that would be.
Yeah.
Right.
Bainbridge, Cairo.
Yeah. So now some of these other teams like Bainbridge, Cairo, Thomas County. So I would do the logical thing and move Thomas County Central back down in classification. I think
they're a little inflated at 6A.
I think they're being penalized for helping their neighboring counties with their special needs programs. Honestly, I think that's what's happening over there. JB Wilson brings up an interesting point. He says no North Florida team could compete with Lowndes Colquitt. That might be true. That might be true.
It may not be that every classification has that.
That's right. So now, so let's talk about because I pitched this idea to Chase and he thought it was an interesting idea. So let's not talk about the competitiveness for a second, because we're the biggest problem that we have to overcome immediately is, are there enough teams for the bigger teams to form a classification of Georgia and North Florida, right? So by including Middle Georgia, you would pull in all the Houston County teams. So those are some big schools up there, right? So you got Northside, Warner Robins, Veterans, HOCO. Then you got Lee County, Tiff County, Lowndes, Valdosta, Colquitt. So that's a pretty good number of teams. That's what, 7 or 8 teams right there, right? Then you got Camden County, and if you include the bigger schools from the Leon County, Tallahassee area, granted they're not as good as they used to be. Outside of Lincoln County, they're not as Godby might be a decent team, but you still do have a number of Tallahassee teams that are bigger in nature. Then to the east, you have a number of Duval County and the Jacksonville area teams, right? That like Rains High School and those types of programs over there. So you do have a good number. So if you added them all together, you probably could come up with 15 to 20 to maybe 25 teams. Because if you go up to the Georgia coast, you would also include Camden County, Glen Academy, Brunswick, maybe the Effingham schools would want to take part, and they would all belong to that Eastern division that includes Jacksonville. So that's basically that I-95 corridor. That makes sense to me.
Sure. You might even get into, would you be opposed to even getting into South Carolina?
Well, that's probably a little bit too far. That's probably a little bit too far.
That's that 195 strip I was saying, but maybe it is. But I get the gist of it. And, you know, a lot of these teams are coming up to South Georgia already. Bartram Trail was on Ware County's schedule for a couple of years for a home and home. Godby you mentioned already. So I think a lot of these teams, there's a border war going on in early September over in Brunswick, I believe. A lot of Florida, Georgia teams are playing. So
you do probably, even at the bigger schools, you do have enough teams, I think, that you can make up maybe 4 or 5 regions. It's really all you need. That's really all you need. You may not have 5 playoff games, but you can probably get in 4, right? That's probably more ideal than 5 that we have now, because that first round game is usually against a cupcake anyway, which is an automatic win for most teams.
That's right.
So anyway, that's probably how I would set it up. A Georgia, North Florida type of athletic league.
Would you limit it to public schools, or would you offer that to public or private?
Any school that wants. See, I'm the new executive director. I can do whatever I want.
Your pen, your law, your land. Hit it.
That's right. So I would invite any team, any school district to join my new league. I would not discriminate against anybody. Just if you want to join, here are the requirements. Here's the membership fee. Come on. We'll find a spot for you.
I would be fine with opening it up to independent high schools.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
My kids some of my kids go to a local Christian academy.
Okay.
Southside Christian Academy, and their conference is called the Southeast Christian Conference.
Oh, okay.
So their region is called a conference, but my point is that it's made up of an East and a West.
Right.
And it's South Georgia, North Florida. It goes down into Stark, even so close to Gainesville down there, over to Jacksonville to the eastern coast, and then back up the I-75 corridor, and it works well.
Yeah.
There's some travel, but you know, you're not going to have, you know, zero travel no matter what, but they do that for volleyball, baseball, you know, soccer every year round.
Yeah.
And the numbers work. And these private schools don't run on a big fat budget, as you know.
Right.
A lot of times it's a very shoestring budget. So we're making it work by way of that. I think it's something that's definitely could be viable.
Yeah. So would you get all these teams to leave their state association? No, you wouldn't. In reality, no, because the cost of creating a new league, you know, putting all this together, it would just be, there really would be no advantage over belonging to the GHSA now. As many headaches as that organization doles out, they're actually a pretty efficiently run organization. They really are. And with their new leadership, I shouldn't call it new. Robin Hines has been there for several years now.
Right.
But when his predecessor was there, I would say we need to bolt. It's time to bolt, right?
Yeah.
But the kids say bounce nowadays, right? Bolt is our language. But my kids would say, Dad, it's time to bounce. So whatever lingo, whatever language you use, it's time to,
Whatever.
it would be time to leave. But now that the last 4 or 5 years, the GHSA is actually a pretty well-run organization now.
Yeah. Biggest complaint, of course, of
I
late
would
being
say that
state
the
title
only
games.
All right, one at a time. George, you go first.
Go ahead, Chet. I was just going to say real quick, the biggest gripe I've had with GHSA in recent years has just been the venue for the state title games, and they're lacking an opportunity for revenue by way of playing at the Georgia State Stadium, in my opinion.
Sure.
Other than that, I don't envy what
Absolutely.
they deal with and what conclusions they've had to come up with. So,
Chase, what were you going to say?
I'll second what George said as far as the state title game. I think honestly you need to go back to playing the state title game in whatever the highest seed high school is.
Yeah.
Give these kids, in their defense, these kids fight all year long to represent their school, represent their communities, and they don't even get to play the state title game in their home stadium, and that used to be bragging rights if you got to play the state title game in your home stadium. But it's some of the rules as far as the way they govern things in the GHSA needs to probably relax up a little bit.
I agree with you.
We discussed the other stuff.
I agree with you guys and disagree with you at the same time. I know that sounds kind of weird, but as far as the state title games, I wouldn't plan on going that direction. But since we're talking about it, it's a good topic. If you can somehow convince Arthur Blank and his organization that controls the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to basically allow the high school championships to be played in that stadium, I think it's a fantastic reward for these kids at the end of the season to play their state championship game in the best venue in the state, right?
I agree with that.
But outside of that, maybe make it more centralized. If you can't play it at Mercedes-Benz, make it more centralized, like at Mercer or even in Warner Robins, because it's more centralized. Yeah, because
venue with Freedom and
McConnell Talbot is a great venue, very centrally
you can split the venue
located
between it and Freedom and Kathleen.
That's right. But if you can't do those two things, then I agree with you guys. Bring them home.
Yep.
And if two number one seeds, then have it already set in stone. 1 year, I wouldn't even do a coin toss. 1 year, have it in the north area, and the second year, have it in the south area if you have two schools that represent north and south.
Yeah.
So
other than that, I don't really I think we can all agree we don't really see a big gaping issue with the GHSA. But it is fun to think of how we could make it better. Always.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, they did have egg on their face a couple of years ago with the whole Jake Garcia and Valdosta situation, how they allowed them to be eligible to begin with. And then only after the ESPN news hit nationally, they were embarrassed. And then they came down hard on the Garcias, which I thought was wrong.
Yeah,
of course.
But then you rule him ineligible, but then you allow him to be eligible just by moving to Grayson, which made no sense. Now, in their defense, they basically followed their bylaws. There was a loophole in the rules, and the loophole was this: as long you could, there was no language in there that says if you're ruled ineligible here, then if you move to another school, you can't play there. Now, so the loophole was if you're ruled ineligible here and you make a bona fide move to another school district, then you would become immediately eligible. And that's what happened with the Garcias. And so they did everything right. The GHSA, it was just a perception of it, right? So they've cleaned up that language. So now they changed the rule that says if you're ruled ineligible here and you move, you're going to be ineligible there for another year. And now everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So other than that, I think they've done all right.
Yeah, I think so too.
So,
but that goes back to the north-south thing, right?
Okay, that's right.
Favoritism we feel happens in metro versus outside, whether we can quantify.
I'm not even going to get into it. I'm not even going to get into it.
Here is the biggest complaint that I get all the time when it comes to the GHSA. And that is their lack of enforcement when it comes to transfers up there. Because the perception, there's so many transfers that happen in the metro Atlanta, even though transfers happen here, but there's so many that happen up there that is high profile stuff. And it's a lot of kids transferring at the same time to the same school. So the perception is there's got to be recruiting going on, which is a violation of the rules. Do we know? Do we have evidence? Do we have proof? No, but that's the perception, right?
Right.
And so the lack of enforcement of transfer rules is really the biggest knock on the GHSA from folks outside of the metro Atlanta area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
That's my biggest thing is, we know that these greater Atlanta area schools, that we know that there's a lot of movement that goes around up there, and it's, I get it. People move all the time. They, may move to the next county or to the next city or to the next suburb or whatever, and that's fine. But are you moving for a job, or are you moving for your kid to go to school?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the question that, like my idea is a bona fide move would be if George, for instance, if George had a kid that was playing football and George got a job in Atlanta and he moved up there for his job. His kid doesn't have a choice. His kid has to go wherever he goes and play football. But if an Atlanta area school came up to his kid, at a camp or something and said, "Hey man, we really would be interested in getting you up to the Atlanta area," and all of a sudden George just said, "You know what? We're going to move to the Atlanta area. I can get a job up there when I get there." Blah blah blah. And now you're moving. Now you're moving for football. To me, that's not a bona fide move.
Right.
I mean, that's just my view of it.
I got you.
It's hard to be too heavy-handed though, because like I said, it's just laid out. The geography is laid out different up there.
It is,
and you're not moving very far, if at all. Sometimes maybe you are moving to find another opportunity, but some player, like let's say Buford, for example, has just Justice Haynes coming in this year, who's arguably one of the top running backs in the nation. I think he's number 1 in the state.
Yeah,
came from Blessed Trinity. But his parents already had a house in Buford district. So I personally, and I understand he's trying to graduate early. Blessed Trinity doesn't allow it. So I understand he has a pretty good reason, but do you say no to him? I mean,
right.
At what point you're going to tell a parent they can't move? I'd tell somebody to go stick it. If they tell me I can't move, like what? Okay. You want to pay my house payment? What are you talking?
Yeah.
So kind of get, but those are the straw man arguments on either side of it. We're talking about en masse 6 people or more moving and stack up a team to make it this all-star team, like Larry we talked about before, of maybe putting a governor on that. Okay, you can have up to 2 or 3, 4, what the number is.
Yeah,
and then
one of our commenters on the comment line. I've seen this dude on comment before, but he always has some really good comments. So I'm not exactly sure who he is. Goes by the name Primetime Gridiron. I think he's based in the Metro Atlanta area. But he says, "I hate how GHSA lets some coaches block kids." And guys, I wish that I had the phone system working tonight, so I could get him to call in and kind of elaborate on what he means by that. Because I think I know what he's talking about, because it's happened locally before. You've had some players that want to go from one school to the other, and somehow coaches have blocked the move. Yeah.
There was rumors that happened in our area recently, with a certain quarterback. It was rumored to be going back to the neighboring county, and there were rumors that he was told unequivocally, do not do that.
Right.
So I'm sure it happens, but that's despicable.
Let me change the topic a little bit and talk about schedules. Okay, well, we don't have time to go over all the schedules, but let me get your opinion on something. Chase, I'm gonna start with you.
Okay.
What's your thoughts on teams that play really, really tough. I'm not talking about like just having quality non-region games, but we've seen teams, even in our area, play really, really brutal non-region games. And so there's pros and cons going on. What's your thoughts on setting up a really tough non-region schedule?
Well, I think that goes back to what is the direction of your program? What direction do you want to take your if your program's goal is to be a state powerhouse and to win a state championship, then I don't really see the need to schedule a really extremely tough non-conference, non-region, out of state, tough opponents.
Right.
But if you're trying to build yourself into a national powerhouse, into a nationally relevant, Max Preps top 20, top 15, top 10 team, that's talked about on the national level, then you've got to schedule those tougher opponents. You've got to schedule those Northwest Miamis and Miami Centrals and St. Thomas Aquinas and St. John Bosco or whatever. Some of them teams out of Texas, that always want to play, out of state teams. You got to go schedule those. You've got to go play against those tougher opponents because you want to elevate your program's identity. But like for the smaller schools, it doesn't make a lot of sense because I really just don't think they have the budget for it. Because that involves a lot of travel. I mean, if you're traveling, 10, 12 hours away to play, that's an overnight stay, that's all that kind of stuff. And that's just a lot for a school to have to incur those kind of financial burdens.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. But, what if you're a smaller school, whether it's a 1A all the way up to 4A, and you want to play a really hard non-region schedule, but you don't necessarily have to play a national type of schedule, right? Yeah, let's just throw out an example. Let's say Irwin County, really good 1A program, right? Or Brooks County, really good 1A program. Let's say they've got a really tough, a really tough region schedule. That's 3 or 4 games. So let's say you're Maurice Freeman or Casey Soliday, and you want to get your team ready for that tough region schedule. Are you going to load up your non-region part of the schedule with cupcakes? Or are you going to go out and play like, let's say in the case of Brooks County, you go out and you go play, I don't know, a Lee County, or you go up to Middle Georgia and you play a Warner Robins. Those are type of really hard teams that you can go and play.
Yeah.
Or if you want to go smaller, you can go to Blackshear and play Pierce County, which is a really good 3A program.
To me, I see that as being more sensible than going and getting shellacked by
Warner Robins. Yeah.
Warner Robins is a nasty game. I don't care if it's in August or November. You don't want that smoke if you're 1A, because 1A teams aren't that deep. And frankly, in Ware County, we're 5A, so we could kind of go swing both ways, but we've done it both ways. And I really feel like what we're doing now is pretty good, where we have the ability to play down maybe a good 3 or 4A team.
Right.
It puts a little different pressure on you. You kind of have to win, right? It's like you're supposed to win. So that puts pressure on you. And if you play sloppy, you're going to get beat because this team is not bad, like a Benedictine last year. They will put it on you. They're a 4A team. But at the same time, you got to play good, sound football. Then, to your point earlier, Chase, I think you said something about the region. If you got a good, solid region schedule, do you want to limp into region? What does that do to your team's confidence if they're younger?
Exactly.
By getting their butts handed to them every week, if that happens. I remember Ware did this one year. We played Lowndes, got hammered. Michael Barrett one year. We got introduced to Ja'Curry Brown his freshman year. That was fun watching him take 3 steps and run 50 yards. I was like, who is that, Larry? What the heck?
Yeah, he was a giant.
Like a gazelle running down the sideline. And so I feel like we've found a good happy medium.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about Ware County, Ware County is a great example, or Coffee County. You can interchange those two programs right now. And I'm picking on those, not really picking on, but I'm highlighting those two teams because of this new classification and the new region they've been put in. Outside of Coffee and Ware in that region, it's a cupcake region.
Yes.
If we're honest about it, right?
It is.
And so outside of one region game, if you're a Mike Coe or if you are a Jason Strickland, do you go out and load up your non-region schedule with really tough teams, knowing that you got a soft schedule in the region, but you still got to get your team ready for the playoffs?
I would find a middle ground. I wouldn't say load up with tough opponents. I wouldn't say go pick a fight with Colquitt County. I would say, find a good 4 or 5A team that you may not match up, or a good 4A team that you may match up well with.
Yeah.
In Ware County's case, I would really like to see Ware County put Lowndes back on the schedule and vice versa.
Sure.
I love those games. I love those games.
It's a good gate. You might have considered gates and things like that too.
Yeah, I loved it because I thought Ware County always rose to the occasion when playing Lowndes.
Yeah.
Gave you guys a good fight, or at least a good half.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, there were some times where Ware County took it to Lowndes.
Yeah,
I remember a few years back when Ware came over to Lowndes. Ware gave us all we wanted that night, and there was a controversial play.
Yes.
I think it's in the second half. Thomas Castellanos was scrambling.
He was a freshman,
and he was called. I think he was called down.
No, there was a.
Was there a fumble?
In the back.
There was
he ran like a 90-something yard touchdown, and there was a block in the back that every Ware fan said was crap, and every Lowndes fan said was just, exactly the right call. Yeah, of course. But that was a momentum change at that moment. Lowndes was up probably 3 possessions, maybe 7.
Yeah, there was another play in that game and the play happened on the Lowndes sideline, and that's why I think the call went in Lowndes' favor, but it was actually a bad call. I think the play was Castellanos was scrambling, right, and he was
running. Your front 7 was murdering him.
Yeah, he was going down. And it was a crucial time because you guys were making a comeback. And so he was going down, and it looked like he fumbled the ball. And that's what the call was. And Lowndes pounced on it. It basically stole the momentum back from Ware, and Lowndes goes on to win the game. Mm-hmm. I was on the Lowndes sideline that night, and I took a photo of that play. And in real time, it looked like he fumbled the ball. When I went back and looked at the photo, his knee was down.
Yeah.
There was no fumble.
Yeah. Those are the times I don't envy referees.
I know, bang plays like that. You can't blame them because it happens so fast. Everybody thought it was a fumble. Well, except if you're a Ware County fan that was 50 yards away on the other side.
No, we have eagle eyes.
That's exactly right. But when you, in hindsight, when you have the advantage of technology and a steel shot where you can take a look at inches away where the knee meets the turf, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But his knee was down, and it wasn't a fumble.
There's been a few controversial plays over the last few years.
Sure.
I think there was one last year, if I'm not mistaken, where they called the kid down or something like that, and he actually put the ball over the plane. I can't remember what game it was, but that was a big uproar. I don't remember where that actually happened at, though. I remember hearing about it on the radio.
Wasn't that in Texas in Varsity Blues?
Yes. No. No. This was it was a fumble or something. I can't remember.
The only one I'm thinking of was a couple of years ago. I think it was Jones and Ware County, and Jones and Wayne County.
Yeah.
And it ended that's how the game ended. They called it a forward fumble into the end zone. Rather than scoring for the win, Wayne loses the game. I think it was Wayne and Jones. At any rate, that's the closest thing that comes to my mind, which begs a question. Maybe some night we could discuss the merits of having replay at some maybe the state title games, or maybe they already have them. I don't recall them ever using any kind of a replay.
Georgia doesn't. I think maybe one or two states have implemented that, but Georgia has not.
But see, that would bring into question where the venue that could be able to accommodate that type of technology.
And so both
Yeah, I think
Mercedes-Benz
they need to-
and Mercer's Stadium are both already equipped for camera platforms like
that's
that.
something to think about too if you're thinking about doing the home, bringing it back home.
You know, I wouldn't favor a replay for every single game, but the state title game,
I'm thinking
when everybody's watching it on TV and streaming anyway, and you know they run the replay 10 times, and everybody sees that obviously they got the call wrong.
What about
but they're not allowed to change it.
Was it Peach and who was it? Peach and somebody in the state title game.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
And they went ahead and got I'm doing this finger. Careful.
Yeah.
But they went and got their own rings, remember?
Yeah.
Calhoun, I can't remember who it was. Peach and Calhoun, maybe?
Could be. I can't remember.
I can't remember, but it was a very controversial that changed the state title.
Yeah. Now,
so they wouldn't pull to UCF.
I saw a couple of other camera angles there since then. Yeah. And I actually think they got the call right. Not that particular call, but it looked like during the play, it looked like the receiver going down the sidelines actually stepped out of bounds.
Yeah, that was the prevailing opinion, I think, from the level-headed fans, was that he was not eligible. He hadn't been come back in and receive.
Correct.
But now, I don't know if that's what he called.
That's right. Now, if he was eligible and he caught the ball, then they blew the call.
Right. So I think they're trying to say either way.
But their saving grace was he ran out of bounds before he caught the ball. So thus deeming him ineligible.
So that's always going to happen. It's just like we're having discussions about how we would make something better.
Right.
At the end of the day, nothing's going to be perfect. There's always going to be inequity. We can't help it. We do our best. And
that's that human aspect.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's a life lesson we probably have an ear to hear right now too. Yeah. Nationwide, frankly. Yeah.
I remember
Stay out of politics, but just leave it at that.
Yeah, we were talking about tough non-region schedules. I remember the last couple of years when Jamie DeBose was here. Chase, you'll remember this. He made it a point to go get the toughest teams to put on the schedule within reason, without bringing in a Bosco or an IMG or something like. But we brought in some really, really tough teams, and I think for a non-region schedule, looking back on it in hindsight, I think it was too tough. I think we suffered. We suffered from some injuries, key injuries.
Yeah.
And so there's a fine balance between challenging your team, getting them prepared, and then going overboard. And there's never a right or wrong answer there. But those particular years, I think we got a little bit too tough.
Well, I really like the Lake Gibson scheduling and the scheduling of Northwest Miami.
Sure.
I thought those two teams matched up really well with what Lowndes had both years.
Yeah.
But I think I told you this earlier today. I don't think Lowndes needs to go out and pick a fight with IMG. By no means.
There's no way we're ready for that. Now, I can see with Zach Grage's drive, I can see if he's here for long term, in 4 to 5 years, if he keeps continuing to grow the numbers in our program and the kids that we have coming up and they follow his program, that kind of stuff, I think in 4 to 5 years, we might be ready to take on a St. Thomas Aquinas or a Miami Central or maybe even an IMG. I think IMG, but those types of schools are 100% recruited players, right?
Oh, yeah.
Every position there is a 3 through 5 star. So that might be a little bit out of our league. But certainly some of these other nationally known teams. I would love to see Lowndes against a Thompson, Alabama.
Yeah.
Or Lowndes against a Mallard Creek or, even Allen, Texas. I would love to see that matchup.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Hey, how about this non-region schedule? You ready?
Yeah.
This team plays Milton, Mallard Creek, North Cobb, Roman Catholic out of Philly, Marietta, Collins Hill, Mill Creek. That's their non-region.
What team is that?
That'd be Buford.
Buford, yeah.
Buford.
Buford.
I figured
They're
that.
walking in the
I
7A
figured that was
first
Buford.
year. We can say what we want about Buford. Those boys are not shot away from a dogfight.
They're not
Every
afraid
Friday.
to play
And
anybody.
then
Yeah,
their reason with who it is. You know, you got
yeah. Pedro
Yeah.
Senior says this. He'd like to see Lowndes versus Central Phoenix. I would love to see that matchup.
I was just thinking that. I would like to see Lowndes versus Central Phoenix.
I would have loved to seen that when Jamie DeBoza was here. That would have been fun because that was his former school.
That where
Oh
he
yeah,
just came
that would have been interesting.
Yeah. So so last topic before the show runs out of time tonight is let's talk about these padded camps for a second. So for our audience that don't know exactly what I'm talking about, guys, football has changed from when us three played. Okay. My summer workout or summer schedule was basically working in cropping tobacco all summer long until about middle August, and then going to camp for a couple of weeks, and then you were ready to play. That's probably why Berrien hadn't won too much, right? So although we were 6-4 my last 2 years of football at Berrien High, just saying, guys.
It's a winning record.
Absolutely.
Then they got soft and started playing Nintendo all summer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But
Right.
football has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So it's basically a year-round sport now. We may only play 10 games or 15 if you're lucky. But football, the training and conditioning and working out, it's basically year-round now. Right. They might get a couple of weeks off during the year, 4th of July, Memorial Day. You might get Christmas break, that kind of stuff. But it's not much downtime. Right. So now in the off season, in the summer, you got these skill positions: quarterback, running back, receivers, linebackers, defensive backs. They usually participate in 7-on-7s. It's basically passing leagues, right? But the offensive linemen and your other core team members as well, including those skill players, sometimes they will participate in something called padded camps or OTAs, organized team activities. And George, basically what this is, it's basically a full speed scrimmage where there's collisions, there's hitting, there's blocking. There's the only rule, I believe I'm right on this, but the only thing they can't do, they can hit. I mean, there are vicious hits that happen in padded camps and OTAs. They cannot tackle and bring a player to the ground.
Yeah.
The GHSA defines it as a thud.
I looked at I had that pulled up, and it looks like they put a governor on it. I don't think they forbid it completely, right? I thought, now this one had an old version, but it said something to the effect of full contact should be limited to, was it 2 days a week? Preseason and spring practice and summer contact camps. Yep. Full contact shall be allowed no more than 2 consecutive practice days per week.
Correct. So basically what happens is you have 3 or 4 teams that might get together to do a padded camp. And so they'll do it in consecutive days.
Okay.
Right. So that's usually the way that works. But they're not in full gear, but they might as well be. They have helmets, shoulder pads, everything on except their football pants. They've got shorts on instead. They've got their cleats. And so it's basically a scrimmage that you do without tackling and bringing someone to the ground. I remember a funny story. Years ago, when this was starting to become popular, Lowndes went over to Coffee County and participated in an OTA with the Trojans over there. And this was like one of the first I think it might have been the first OTA or padded camp that Lowndes took part in. And we thought, this is what I was told, I wasn't there, but our squad thought it was basically a glorified walkthrough, right? Just against another team. So our guys are going half speed. And the Coffee guys are like, no, man, this is full speed. And they're slamming into players. And so our coaches and our players got the message in a hurry. Oh, wow. So they started competing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you know what this is, what do you think? What's your initial thoughts on this? You think it's helpful? Do you think it's harmful? There's no right or wrong answer here. It's just us speculating. What's your initial thoughts on that?
Well, I'll just say personally, I don't think it's bad if you're trying to avoid the heat. You can go 2-a-days, morning or evening,
Right.
limit your time, which is already stipulated by the GHSA. It already says it. You can limit your practice to 1 contact per session if you're doing 2-a-days.
That's right.
You also have the onset of this new IPFs, indoor practice facilities.
Yep.
That maybe if temperature is a concern in South Georgia, you now have that respite to get out of the heat.
Good point.
So I just think anything you can overdo, but I think if you're sensible about it, there's a way to do it. And I think there's value in it in terms of, like you're talking about, getting hit. You get used to running patterns and coming up high like this, and
Don't do
next
that.
thing you know, you run a slant from a spread and you get drilled.
That's right.
I mean, if you're not practicing that and getting checked, I could see value in it. There's always a liability.
Yep.
Anytime you make contact, there's a liability on a basketball court too. So
yeah, that's true.
Major.
worst injury my
Major.
son ever took was a broken arm on a basketball court. So
There are pros and cons with any type of practice, right? Any type of team organized activity. There's always, even on 7-on-7s, you always have the risk of pulling a hammy, spraining a knee, cutting wrong on a turf and tearing an ACL. You always have that inherent risk when you step on a field to compete. And the same thing holds true with OTAs / padded camps. There's always a risk that's involved. But in most people's eyes, especially coaches and players, the risks are worth it because they're minimal at worst, I think. But the benefit that you get by getting especially if you got linemen, because 7-on-7s, you can play in a lot of those tournaments and the skill guys get a lot of work. But you don't really, as a lineman, it's kind of hard to simulate what a lineman goes through, right? Because it's basically an orchestrated collision with guards pulling and the like. And the only way to do that is against live fire.
That's what I was going to say. With the linemen, you almost need that OTA. You almost need that so the linemen get used to that collision, that mesh point.
Right.
And with the linemen, could simulate for defensive linemen. You could simulate getting off the ball, clearing blocks. Yep. You can simulate all those types of things. But with the offensive line, unless you've got a 2 or 3 man, 5 man blocking sled, it's hard to simulate that same collision. So for the linemen, I think the OTAs would very much so benefit teams that want to run their linemen through them.
I agree, man.
Another thought to your point to piggyback is think about Region 17A right now. The most tenured coach in our area anyway is got 1 year?
Right.
1 year? All right, so new blocking schemes probably coming. I remember our first year under Jason Strickland, totally new offense, a lot of blocks completely missed. And when you get a guy who's a young quarterback and just 3 guys breathing down his neck, as soon as a shotgun snap hits his hands, you talk about injury risk going up.
Yeah.
So giving those linemen time over the summer to work on those skill sets and blocking schemes could be protective.
Yeah.
And players.
Listen, in the case of teams, you mentioned quarterback a while ago. In the case of teams that have to replace their quarterback, I can think of Lowndes, Valdosta. Can't think of other teams. Ware County's got to replace their quarterback, right? So one of these OTAs where you have, because a quarterback can only learn so much participating in a 7-on-7, right? They get a lot of reps throwing and precision and that kind of stuff, but you can't simulate real guys coming at you. But you can in an OTA. Yeah. And so they get a lot of valuable reps that way as well. So it does help skill guys too.
Yeah. I think everybody.
Chase, are you finally comfortable? You settled in a comfortable spot.
kick back.
Yeah, after you swing a sledgehammer trying to bend a piece of steel that's not supposed to bend, yeah, your back hurts a little bit.
I understand, man. Out of the three of us, you probably have the toughest job.
Yeah.
But no, the 7-on-7 thing, I think that really benefits these younger quarterbacks because for one, quarterback and receivers relationships have to develop. The quarterbacks have to learn their receivers. They have to learn their speed, their break points. You know, how fast can he run this route? How fast can he run that route? You know, where does is his catchability more if I place the ball here or here?
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that are things that the 7-on-7 camps are going to teach these quarterbacks. Now, I will agree that they've got to learn how to adapt that pressure in their face. So, you know, I would send them to some OTAs with their offensive line and their receivers and let them get used to getting that pressure in their face. I would not tell them up front that, hey, these guys can't really wrap you up and take you to the ground. I would say, hey, look, this is a live fire practice. You just don't have on practice pants.
Well, you do have to tell them that.
Able to hit you that way.
Well, you do have to tell them because if they start getting into the habit of taking people to the ground, it's violating the rules, and you can face some sanctions over that.
What I'm saying is you don't tell the quarterback that.
Oh, okay.
That way the quarterback thinks they can actually wrap him up and take him to the ground.
Sure.
That way he's a little bit more apt to to make the right reads to make them faster.
Yeah. Now here's the downside.
You know you can't get hit.
Yeah. Here's the downside to OTAs. Not everybody follows the rules. And there's not very many enforcement officers working for the GHSA to make people, because this could potentially be a dangerous practice, right? Because we're talking about live speed, real speed. And you're talking about guys nowadays that they can bring the wood, right? When they hit you, you feel it. And if you're not careful, you can get injured. Now, Primetime Gridiron brings up a good point. And this is why I touched on this.
You're right.
If you pick up a guy and slam him to the ground, that's more than a thud. And guys, that happens more than we think.
That's a shame too, because I think you can put enough pressure and enough duress on a quarterback without him having to think he may or may not get slammed.
Yeah.
Versus make it a competition. I can't let him touch me. I can't let him thud me or whatever.
Now,
I can still replicate.
I don't know of any situation. I don't know of any team personally that have violated these types of rules, that kind of stuff. But I can imagine the temptation is probably really there. If you got several coaches that are highly competitive, type A personalities, and there's no enforcement or oversight, you probably do have some teams and programs that are bending the rules. Let's be honest about it, right? It happens all the time at other levels, other programs. So it could happen. If that's the case, then shame on these coaches because they're putting their players at risk. And it's unnecessary.
Not only that, you're putting your program at risk, because who's to say the GHSA doesn't? Who's to say the GHSA doesn't level a sanction against you because you had an illegal practice and say, okay, look, you're banned from playoffs this year because you decided to go this route.
Especially how easy it is for someone to videotape something and email it or text it to someone.
Yeah.
The penalties I saw were the first offense was $500 up to a certain number, and then the second was automatic, I think, disqualification from a postseason, and that's pretty heavy-handed to me.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of thuds, real quick, Acuna just hit a second bomb in the Braves game, and he did his waltz around the bases and LeBron James, deal at the plate. So he's fixing to get a thud upside his ear hole if he don't watch out. Just a little Braves update real quick.
That's funny. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our show tonight, guys.
The risk.
Go ahead. Make your point. Make your point, Jace.
The risk, like you were just saying, the risk doesn't benefit the reward in those situations. And these programs have got to start. They've got to put their program ahead of whatever their need to be a type A personality is. That's not relevant for your program. And these coaches they've got to be more level-headed than that.
That's right. Now, I would say that, Primetime Gridiron, he says this summer will be interesting. So Primetime, I would encourage you, listen, man, these are kids, right? So the venues, the practices, they've been well defined. All the coaches know how to do them. If there are clear-cut violations of these rules and you know about them, get them on video, send them to the GHSA. Teams need to be made examples of for breaking these rules, and some of these teams will stop doing that. Again, I don't know any examples of this violation of rules, but apparently Primetime Gridiron is referring to something, so I'm assuming that he knows something that's going on.
Well, there's going to be a level of secrecy that you could afford to have if you have indoor facilities, because you can lock them to,
and listen,
that mind.
A lot of what the GHSA relies on is the honor system, whether it's transfers, because the only way the GHSA investigates bona fide moves is if another competing team basically turns a team in and complains, right? Files a formal complaint. That's basically when the GHSA steps in and investigates. Most of the time, 99% of the time, the GHSA gets paperwork from a school and they basically certified on their own, yes, this player has made a bona fide move. And the GHSA says, okay, we trust you administrators based on the honor system, approved. And that's what they usually do, right? And so anyway, so most of the GHSA's enforcement is not there, and they rely on the honor system. So anyway, guys, it's 10 after 8. I'm getting hungry. You guys probably are too. Chase has finally found a comfortable spot, so he's probably going to be nodding off pretty soon.
Yeah, he's going to be checking out in a minute. He's got a redhead that you can't quite see that's going to say negative.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's probably fixing to make me go lay down with her on the couch.
I got you. Well, listen, man.
Watch cartoons.
We're glad you finally joined us by video tonight.
Well, between
don't do it next week.
Coaching,
I'm kidding.
Don't do it next week. Between my job and having to get a shower and coaching football, it gets to be a little much sometimes, but I'm making it work.
Yeah. I'm going to say this to Primetime Gridiron. Listen, man, if you're in the metro Atlanta area and you have knowledge of the, the teams up there and you want to call into the program or you want to participate in the program as a guest on screen, let's connect and we'll get you scheduled. You can come in on a show one night and just let our audience know what's going on in the metro Atlanta area. I think that would be really, really good insight for the folks down here in South Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for our show tonight. You've been watching the PreGame Blitz on the Viking Nation Network. I guess that's what we can call this thing for the summertime. Yeah. So we'll just leave it at that. We'll catch you guys next week. Have a fantastic week. And last thing I'll say is go Vikings.
Go Gators.